Welcome to the American Journal of Managed Care, AJMC, Peer Exchange Editorial Video Series. My name is Dr. Fred Lublin. I'm the Saunders Family Professor of Neurology and Director of the Corinne Goldsmith Dickinson Center for Multiple Sclerosis at Mount Sinai Medical Center. I am also the co-editor-in-chief for Multiple Sclerosis and Related Disorders, a new journal. Today's featured discussion is entitled The Impact of an Evolving Therapeutic Pipeline for Multiple Sclerosis, Balancing Clinical Outcomes with Managed Care Perspectives. Multiple sclerosis is a chronic and progressive disease, mostly disimmune, that is associated with substantial burden due to its unpredictable and debilitating course. While there have been great clinical strides made in recent years, MS continues to be the leading cause of neurological disability among young adults. Our goal today is to provide our audience with a range of expert perspectives on the current challenges and important issues facing today's healthcare and managed care professionals. For today's discussion, I'm joined by three leading experts who bring with them a broad range of experience. Without further ado, I'll introduce my colleagues. To my right is Patricia K Coyle, MD, Professor and Vice Chair for Clinical Affairs in the Department of Neurology at SUNY at Stony Brook in Stony Brook, New York. Directly to my left is Leslie Fish, PharmD, Vice President of Clinical Programs and Senior Director of Pharmacy at Fallon Community Health Plan, the Meyer Primary Care Institute in Worcester, Massachusetts. And to my far left is Gary M. Owens, MD, who is the president of Gary Owens Associates in Glen Mills, Pennsylvania, and also senior medical consultant to Towers Watson RX Collaborative. Thank you all for joining us this evening. So let's get started. First, we're going to do a little bit of an overview of what multiple sclerosis is. So as I said earlier, it's the leading cause of neurologic disability in young adults. It's a disease that affects individuals primarily from age 20 to 50, although we do see pediatric cases. We also see maybe a growing incidence of MS in older population, but that's the group. And it's that group that makes this such an important disease because it involves individuals in their peak productive years, their reproductive years, and tends to cause disability that lasts for decades. The disease primarily affects Caucasians more than any other racial group. It affects women more than men, and that disparity, that sexual disparity, is increasing. And so we used to say it was about a 2-to-1 ratio, females to males, and now it's over 3-to-1 for reasons that aren't entirely clear, but that difference seems to be growing. And the rapidity at which it's growing and the recentness of it suggests that it's something in the environment, not a genetic issue. Now, in terms of incidence and prevalence, I'm going to let Dr. Coyle discuss that a bit.
Well, certainly a very interesting feature of MS is that there are low, medium, and high-risk zones. And North America, in particular the United States and Canada, are considered high-risk zones. So when we talk about an estimate of individuals in the US that have MS, and we really don't have great data, we talk about 400,000 individuals being diagnosed with MS. That's probably an underestimation. Some data has suggested there may be 750,000. And if you really use autopsy studies, when we talk about the variability of MS, MS may be pathologically present but silent. That might be considered the mildest form of MS. And the limited autopsy data suggests that we can basically double the number of MS cases. So we have at least 400,000 individuals with MS, probably more. This is a disease that is on the rise, particularly among young women. We do not understand that, and it's a very strongly female predominant disease. With regard to the prevalence, again, we don't have great numbers, but it's over 30 per 100,000 in the United States, and in some areas may reach 50, 100, 130 per 100,000.
Right, and the incidence is increasing, and the distribution around the world is increasing. What do you think that's saying? For example, we never used to see much from the Indian subcontinent or the Middle East, and now we're seeing more.
It's very interesting. When I was being trained, we were told that Africa had no MS. There was no native Africans with MS. Now there are hundreds of documented Africans with MS. This is clearly a Caucasian, Northern European, Scandinavian background disease, and we remain with over 90% of MS patients as Caucasians, but where it was decades ago considered very rare in places like the Orient, China, in the Middle East, in Latin America, that's no longer true. And I can think of one very interesting story. The French West Indies and the Caribbean are not a Caucasian population, very low MS. They did a study of looking at individuals that had moved to France, lived in France, and then moved back. Their rate of MS was double the individuals that had never left the island, really strongly suggesting environmental factors were playing a role.
Right, and so there were a number of migration studies which suggest just that point, that moving from an area of high risk, like Great Britain, to low risk, such as South Africa, or even the US, from northern US to Hawaii, that adults who moved kept the risk of where they came, whereas their children under the age of 15 picked up the risk of where they went. Again, suggesting something in the environment, something latent that expresses itself later in life. We'll get into some of the issues of etiology, but it helps to point out what we don't know, although one of the things we'll discuss shortly is this issue of relative contributions of genetics and environment.